Thanks, guys. I am here at the fabulous VIP lounge at the Blue Hills Bank Pavilion with the one and only talented, charming, attractive, and natty-hatted Mark Cates. Welcome aboard.
Thank you, Sarah. It's nice to see you.
It's nice to see
You're
you,
looking
too.
well yourself.
Thank you so much. We are here because we are going to talk about Mark's exciting career, part of which involves the band that you just heard about, Joywave, who are playing at the Paradise with a band that I really love, Betty Who. That's a really nice up-and-coming bill for them to be on.
It's great, yeah. They're doing a whole tour with her, and she went to Berkeley, and so they did a remix for her, and they know her a little bit. We're just trying to get them going, and they have a song that's on the radio, and they're just working hard, and this will be exciting, and it'll be the biggest show they've done here by far. So
Mark's done a lot of things in his career, and one of the things I like about this Joywave thing is that it's exciting to me that at this point in your career, you're still so interested in helping new bands. What is it about this band that got you excited, and what do you look for when you're looking for a management band?
Joywave were guys in Rochester that were just trying to conquer their small city, which they've done a pretty good job of, but also they really wanted to reach people. And they were really inventive. They made these mixtapes that they targeted at a hype machine, and they covered other artists, not in like the YouTube really generic way that's happening these days, but a lot more creatively. And they managed to have two #1 mixtapes on Hype Machine, and the second one had a song called Tongues, which became one of the top 25 tracks of the year on Hype Machine, and that song got them signed to Hollywood Records, and now they're at radio. And yeah, I do love that part of the process, and I like it better when you have resources to draw on, because I've done
Hollywood
it both ways.
has an interesting, the thing that I always think of when I think of Hollywood is Grace Potter, who they've thrown all their weight behind her, and it's actually worked out very nicely for her. And I think it's like an interesting contrast of bands on that label. It's like they have boy bands and Grace Potter, and now they have Joywave, and that's an interesting, it sounds like they're actually interested in music.
They are, and I think you're going to see their roster continue to evolve, because I know that they're working on some other stuff more in the direction of a band like Joywave than the Disney teen stuff that they're often involved with.
Right, because it's part of the corporate parents. But instead of talking about corporate things, I want to go way back to the beginning, back through the mists of time, back to the 80s. Remember the 80s? Remember the 80s? When you were a young man, just fresh out of school, and your favorite band was Mission of Burma, and you lucked into this gig working for Mission of Burma.
They were my favorite band. I thought they should be bigger. It took me a little while, but I got myself into this position to help them. And then very shortly after that, Roger's tinnitus kind of shut down their career.
So basically you broke up Mission of Burma. But then, many years later,
exactly,
integral.
The most amazing, yeah.
Integral in getting them, well, not getting them back together, but in promoting their reunion.
They were thinking about it, so I got them together. I will take credit for saying, you have to do this, and you have to do this with me, because I knew so many people personally that would care about it.
Absolutely.
And little did I know how many people would actually care about it.
Well, they were so much bigger when they came back. But let's back up. So you get this great job as a young man. The band that you love breaks up. But then you get this even, some would argue, better job working at Geffen Records, first in promotions and then in an A&R, which means artist and repertoire for all of you out there. So explain what that meant, that you go to Geffen and you get this job in A&R, and you're now signing back and you're A&Ring records for Hole and for Nirvana. Like, what is that life like?
It's incredible, and it doesn't really exist anymore, and I'm very, very lucky to have had the experience I've had. The catalyst for that era at Geffen was really when we signed Sonic Youth, because when Nirvana decided they wanted to sign to a major label, there couldn't be anything more important to them than where Sonic Youth were if they were happy. And the minute we signed Sonic Youth, Kim Gordon said to me, the next band you should sign is Nirvana. I think that those two people, Kim Gordon and Thurston Moore from Sonic Youth, have had such an unbelievable impact on culture. It goes way beyond music. I had a really incredible job. I was making records, helping really great artists make records with real resources. I could kind of do what I wanted, and I believed in what I was doing, and fortunately, we were able to help cultivate a genre of music that took over rock radio, and then in the process, the generic side of it became really successful.
So would you actually say, it's interesting the things you said about Sonic Youth, that in some ways I think people point to Smells Like Teen Spirit as this big pivotal moment, which I won't take away from it, but I wonder if there was something before that.
It's a lot of things. The other biggest artist I had worked with prior to Nirvana was XTC, and we managed to get those artists played on pop radio, which is kind of amazing. And MTV was a huge factor in all of that, because they were really supportive of that genre for the most part. They should have played the Cool Thing video by Sonic Youth, but that's...
Well, they played it at 120 minutes.
Yeah, right, exactly. Our midnight to 2 a.m. ghetto, that, thank
Hey,
God
it's
for
better than
that.
the black folks were doing.
I mean, Teen Spirit was that moment because it blew away, it had more impact. I think that the only song prior to that in alternative music that might have had anywhere near that level of impact, and it was all really after the fact, is How Soon Is Now by the Smiths, because that sort of was the genre-defining song, but it wasn't a hit in its time. I mean, it was a hit over time, I guess. Anyway, yeah, all of a sudden, this really punk-inspired, and yet, there was a pop side of his songwriting that clearly reached people. I think the rawness of that song and the lyrics and just the way a lot of kids felt at that time were drawn together at that one moment with that video. Thank God.
So let's talk about MGMT and how you came to be their manager.
I had an employee at the time who was a scout at Columbia Records and was in the A&R meeting when they were brought up by another scout who didn't have anything new to play. So he thought he would play this EP that they had made when they were at Wesleyan, which was a couple years before that. As the legend goes, because I still don't really know all of it, I guess, he played this record and basically the room flipped out. And they're like, you got to find these guys. Well, those guys had graduated from Wesleyan, gone kind of their separate ways, maybe weren't even going to make music together again, yet on that EP had written and recorded, to date, their two biggest songs, Kids and Time to Pretend, when they were freshmen or sophomores at Wesleyan. I always like to explain this because they actually had to decide to exist, let alone sign to a record label and then dive into this world, and I had to go meet them, and it's worked out well. It's been an unbelievable experience. As a band that continues to work hard and play all around the world, they had incredible festival shows, especially in Europe this year. I'm going to Monterrey, Mexico with them next week.
And you can actually already hear their influence on new music that's coming out now.
Yeah, well, yeah. It didn't take long. I mean, they get a lot of credit for the climate that I referenced earlier of pop songs on alternative radio, and which I think they deserve. I mean, it's not what they set out to do.
Well, it sounds like they didn't set out to do anything.
Right, exactly. When you encounter people who actually aren't pushing you to push them, it's really refreshing, and you realize a little bit of balance goes a long way in this era of the music business.
When I was getting ready for this, one of the things I thought about, the Foo Fighters have a new record coming out next month. Beck just put out that beautiful, quirky, amazing song reader. And his album too, which is also beautiful. But is it even possible to go back to the person you were back then, working with Beck and Nirvana, and think 25 years from now, 20-something years from now, these guys are still going to be forces to be reckoned with commercially speaking?
Well, again, I was committed to that, whether it was going to happen or not. I had to believe that. And I did. I mean, I remember talking to Beck really early on, at some point when something wasn't going particularly well, and he's like, I want to be like Neil Young. I want to make records forever. And he has really lived up to that.
He really has. The way people build and sustain careers now has changed so very much in the time that you've been doing this. And I would imagine that people must come up to you all the time and say, we're a brand new band, what do we do? And I can't imagine there's any sort of pat advice that you can give them in the sort of fractured world that we're living in now.
No, other than you better be doing everything you can do for yourself before you even expect someone like me to be paying attention. Because there are not, the anecdote about Joywave and the mixtapes, that's really a way to reach people right now. And, I think that's something that Ben, who really is their everyday manager, encouraged them to do. But it was an idea that was somewhat based on things that were happening, but it still had to work for them. So there's no cookie cutter formula, obviously. But more importantly, what is reaching people is changing every day. And, now they got a record deal, they got a publishing deal, they've gotten some licensing. They're also half of the Big Data song, which was a #1 alternative radio song.
I just heard it on the way here.
Yeah, which, by the way, there was no sign of either band having anything happen, 15 months ago. So, and yet they have an EP out. We're, pushing hard every day to crack the top 20 at alternative radio, which they're very close to doing. But I mean, that's a whole nother challenge that even when you have the resources, even when you have lots of people working hard to make things happen, the public still actually has to let you in on a certain level.
Right. You have to be good. I mean, you have to have songs.
I feel very strongly about those things. I mean, that's number one. If you don't have songs, I'm never going to be interested in you. And, I will say there are people that I don't believe have songs that have been successful, but...
Oh, absolutely. Many, many people, and God bless them. I mean, there's something to be said for drive and connections and luck. and all of that too. That's part of the package, but you got to have the music.
Yeah, and the second S in songs is really important.
Yes, it's true.
Because it's an interesting time right now. There are really good pop songs that are reaching the alternative audience. I mean, that's kind of what this moment is like in a way. There's a few core artists, and there's a lot left over from the 90s, more than there should be in a lot of ways. Well, I just think it's a genre that's supposed to be about things that are happening at that moment. But at the same time, there are so many music consumers that could care less about the mainstream of the business and even what's getting played on the radio because they have so many ways to get what they want.
And there's just so much more product, to put it sort of crassly. I mean, it's true. There's just so much more out there. The number of submissions that you get, the number of records that I get, it just has exploded over time. It's sort of unbelievable. But in that, there's more good stuff too. So who is it that you are enjoying right now that isn't a management client of yours? Who are you liking listening to right now?
I'm only going to bring this up because I was thinking about it today. I really love Arcade Fire. They're my favorite band of this era, and I don't understand why that record hasn't reached more people. Because I just think, and it was a record I really got into listening start to finish. But if you do that, it's very rewarding. And I think the show they just wrapped all their touring, but the show they just did in Mansfield was incredible. And I just think what they're doing is important, and I'm really excited to hear the Foo Fighters record because I think that what Dave is doing is really important because there are so few rock bands that can play big venues where someone like me who grew up in Lexington and went to shows at the old Garden and until I saw the Neighborhoods thought that was kind of the end of it. I'm excited. I'm psyched about the Aphex Twin song and just there you go. There is another example of how you launch a record that no one had done before, going to the darknet. And I don't know. I mean, that's an artist who's always defined a lot of things differently and successfully. And what's interesting to me is you actually have a situation right now where Aphex Twin can almost enter the marketplace more like Daft Punk than something really left-wing. Even though the record won't be that mainstream, they kind of came from the same place originally.
Well, it'll probably be more mainstream than it would have been if they had taken a different approach. More people will hear about it. There's more buzz in a way. So maybe they're not going to be winning Grammys with helmets on, but more people will hear the music, and that's the most important thing. And I want to back up just quickly because I thought of you when I was at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction in Cleveland a few years ago when the Beastie Boys were inducted. I went down to check out the show. Mark ran the Beastie Boys record label, Grand Royal Recordings, from 1998 to 2001, and
God, you
we're
are good.
close to them. And so that was what made me think of you that night, that it must have been an interesting evening for you.
Yeah, it was, that institution I really have some kind of mixed feelings about. Again, this year, being there for the Nirvana thing, I really felt like, wow, they let us in. And the speech that Michael Stipe gave, which if anyone has ever summed up everything I'm trying to talk about here, it was that speech. Please watch it. It's incredible.
Watch the whole Nirvana induction from this year's Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I thought it was remarkable. Joan Jett, Lord, St. Vincent. I thought St. Vincent was remarkable. And Kim Gordon, absolutely. I love that those were the choices that they made to honor Kurt in that way.
And yeah, for the Beastie Boys, I mean, again, what a career and so far beyond music. Their importance.
And their evolution was just remarkable. I mean, what they went from not just musically, but as people, from my understanding of it, was just so remarkable. And I guess that's over now, but I mean, what an incredible legacy to have left.
I can't believe that Yauk is gone.
Yeah, but, I think it's just for us, it's the whole mortality thing, right?
That's right, exactly, absolutely. Yeah.
But this is why you're getting into new bands. This is why you're signing Joywave. This is why you're still going out to see stuff. And this is why you're still excited about music. And that's why we're glad to have you. Thanks you so much for joining us, Mark.
You're very welcome. Thank you.